Okay, I'd like to call to order the April Ramsey-Washington Metro Watershed District Board meeting. First order of business or second order of business. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Wonderful. Don't have anybody online, so all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. All abstain. Moving forward to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Wonderful. Any discussions? So you can ask some questions or clarifications to help inform how you vote. Anything that comes up?
We can ask questions after we vote as well, can't we? Or do you want to?
Oh, yeah, let's do it now. Yeah, now you should do it.
I had a quick question on the Oakdale Street Improvement 2611. I don't have that page number written down, but 32. I did not see, trying to find I did not see in the map where the underground chamber is located. I'm curious if that's located in the city's interests, the best place they could find, or did we have some input in terms of its best location to provide treatment for tanners?
Yeah, the city selected the location. It's at the right where kind of below where it says Tanner's Lake South Subwatershed, where the polygon for the map kind of bumps out a little bit into that grass area. So just south of 5th Street.
Yes.
There's a managed bee wetland right north of that.
Yeah, so where it's kind of that club shape going north south.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of thought that was where we're going to be located.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and is that taking stormwater from this project only, or from their previous project as well? Because they're kind of doing some last year's and this year's.
Yeah.
Joint plan.
It's taking stormwater from this project only, but they're utilizing this BMP to meet the remainder of their 2025 volume that they had deferred last year. So their other BMP that they constructed last year in 2025 was a filtration bench around ABI Pond, would be sort of the bottom right corner. You see the pond on the map.
Oh, yeah.
But the location of that 2025 street reconstruction was like nearly, if not exactly adjacent to this project area. So very close, but.
Thank you.
I had a similar or an adjacent question on that permit. Did we rerun any kind of assessment to ensure that the remaining volume as well as the new 2026 volume is covered?
Yeah, so they they separated the 2025 volume from the 2026 volume, which they are applying the linear cost cap. So they're not meeting the full 2026 volume in terms of physical storage, but our rules allow for that for linear projects. But they made sure to not include the costs of that incremental volume from 2025. So keep those very separate.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Okay, do I have all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Abstain. Okay, consent agenda topics pass. Moving forward to item number 4, I think we just have one visitor, the non-bar Michael, with no last name. Did you want to take 4 minutes to make a comment? Going to assume with him sitting on mute, that is a no. Okay, moving to item number 5, regulatory program. Keith?
Yeah, so there's a couple, sort of linear trail projects that were not included on consent for reasons of, wetland buffer variance. Starting with 609, a MnDOT maintenance project down by Pig's Eye on Highway 61. They noted various locations where actually the existing highway doesn't meet, wetland buffer requirements. So they're not really proposing any changes to the existing buffers, but temporary disturbance of those areas, as well as within some of the wetland areas, all temporary. And they received a no loss decision from WACA. MnDOT is their own LGU, so we didn't regulate the WACA part of this, but we have a copy of like their delineation and their notice of decision, but.
Yeah, so I just want to, let's have a little discussion before we move to vote on this one. I just double check, make sure my understanding is correct. So right now it says it doesn't grow the impervious area. They're already not in compliance. The existing structures are already not in compliance to our rule E. But they only plan temporary disturbances and not increasing the impact of the buffer. Is that fair? Is that a good way to summarize?
Yeah, I mean, each, there's a table, so each wetland has specific notes attached to it. So like, for instance, wetland 5, they say the Highway 61 is within the minimum buffer. We're not really changing anything, but we need to remove some vegetation so that it's not a safety hazard. But they're not like expanding the road in that location. Similarly, for instance, like wetland 3, they have to replace a culvert that's already there, but they're not like adding a new culvert or, you know, expanding the impact area of that.
My next question on that table is around wetland 7, and I just assume it's a typo that the table wasn't completed. It did seem like the most, the best wetland out of the sets, and so I was just kind of curious.
Yeah, I actually didn't notice that. I was looking at the explanation, and that, again, that's a location where Highway 61.
There's already, it's already
Mhm.
in the buffer.
Yeah, but no, I didn't notice that actually. So I can have them fill that in. It would
In
be
your,
a
in your
no.
understanding, it'd be an NN.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
And I think this, just to, so as I read through it, the clearing and grubbing, does that mean when they remove the vegetation, they'll replant with the appropriate seeding for those buffers?
There will be seeding, you know, for areas of bare ground, but I believe it's like vegetation maintenance around the guardrail.
Okay.
So they're not grading or anything, but I think it's overgrown.
Okay. Okay.
There's maybe some volunteer trees or something they might need to take, but
The word grubbing is a new concept.
yeah.
Please help me.
Yeah, so we see that a lot on, well, really any development project where there's tree removal ahead of time.
Okay.
So clearing and grubbing leaves a lot of stumps, wood chips. It's not grading, but they're really just taking out woody vegetation generally. But yeah, if it results in a mess, we're obviously gonna make sure that they stabilize. They do have seating specified, but
Yeah, it just didn't jump out to me what they were doing with the seeding.
yeah.
Okay. Last question, but it's more of a higher level question. We're doing some work or investigations around Pig's Eye in that southern area. Is there any kind of adjacencies or synergies that we can find with work that we're looking at, given that this is a linear project?
That I'm not sure of. I know there's a number of trail projects in this area. You'll see, I believe next month, St. Paul's Point Douglas Trail, which will come in through here. You, I believe, approved 2 years ago the Fish Creek Trail for City of St. Paul. So there's a lot of trail work happening, but I don't know of anything that we're looking at specifically.
Just I wanted to ask. I couldn't
Yeah,
recall.
not for that narrow.
Wonderful. Do I have a motion to approve permit 2609? Or are there additional questions?
I'll move to approve 2609.
Do I have a second? Okay, any further discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Same thing. Okay, moving forward to 2610.
Yeah, 2610 is at the existing Battle Creek Dog Park. For those that are familiar, Ramsey County Parks is looking to improve the area by constructing intentioned trails. There's worn trails by foot traffic. And so looking to, in a sense, stabilize those areas with crushed limestone and mulch edges. This is another situation where the existing trails that are compacted dirt essentially do not meet buffer requirements, and of course they've been just kind of organically created over time. And so the buffer variance is for those areas in addition to some of the restoration that's planned because of the unique use of the park. The fact that it's very shaded, it's difficult to establish like a native prairie. But I know it's on the county's radar as far as like water quality. It's just it's a tough site. And I think part of the other, the trail placement was to minimize site grading and disturbance. But at this park, the dogs have direct access to these ponds and wetlands.
Just for a point of clarification, Ben is the applicant.
Yes.
In case you didn't catch that. So if you have any questions.
Real specific questions.
Is there any opportunity to try to do some exclusions around some of those wetlands? Fencing
I
to
can
keep
answer what
dogs
I
out.
know, or I can answer what I know.
There's opportunity if that is part of the variance, directive. It is not currently in any of our plan sets as we're working with a set budget. We're not only doing improvements to this off-leash dog area, we're spreading this draw funding among 3 of our off-leash dog areas. And we don't know actually what's going to be built in the actual plan set. There's a base bid for each site, which is a section of the trail. In Battle Creek, it's one that does not go through any wetland buffers. So we are expecting those bids to come back, and then we will be kind of piecing together what we can do with this one. There's been discussion with the watershed about limiting access. That's a really tough thing to do in these areas. We have put up fences in the past and volunteer groups have torn them out. So it would need a really concentrated community engagement education component as well.
That's a very fascinating title for a group of people who care about.
Would you say that the intention of this project is to help guide people to a?
Yeah, the intention of the project, so this came out of the 2018 long-range plan for these areas. One of the things that came out of that was accessible walking trails. We have a number of community members who use walkers, canes, et cetera. So we wanted to provide a firm and stable surface. Through the design, we used the outdoor accessibility standards to establish grades, as well as cross slopes to help guide water across in a more uniform manner. So it is also for that, but it's also to guide foot traffic. We can't control where the dogs are gonna run, but I think if people see these trails, the wetland buffers will be less impacted over time because they have a firm and stable walkway to keep to.
Yeah.
The crushed limestone, I don't know a lot about that technology. What's the likelihood of it staying in place? I just don't have a good sense on it.
It's a high likelihood. We're constructing it with a base material, 6-inch base, similar to how you would construct any concrete sidewalk or bituminous path. And then the 3/8 inch minus limestone, so the largest piece of material is 3/8 of an inch. And that compacts down to pretty much an impermeable surface. So it does make a very firm walking path.
It was mentioned in the memo, but could you just expand on the techniques you're going to use to try to encourage people to stay on that path?
It's more of a social science. If people see a path, they will generally stick to it as well. We elected not to create new routes through the area. These are existing routes that people walk. Typically, they do stick to a confined area. When they get wider, it's because it has become inundated with water or other things, and they start to widen the path. This is kind of phase one of keeping it to this path. We've been working with the volunteer groups as well as our natural resource department to improve these areas. We do want to continue that relationship. We have been doing some outreach with them and the need to try to make less of an impact in these wetland buffers. And there is some ongoing discussions about different restorations that could take place. We've had them do buckthorn removal events, so we're teaching them the importance of, removal of invasive species. To Mark's point, we've had preliminary discussions of maybe partially closing areas so that we can restore 80% of the buffer around an area, but still provide access to some of these wetlands. A lot of the community thinks of them more as ponds where their dogs can run and swim and play.
Yeah, as a dog owner, I will say that this is a real challenge. The paths obviously are intended, at least from my understanding, to be used by the people, by the dog owners. And this is an off-leash area. That's why they go there. And, dogs are gonna have a free run. So the degree of vegetation denuding, if I can use that terminology, because it's just pretty much bare soil. I wonder if the degree that people walking in these areas versus dogs repeatedly walking, I suspect that it's the dogs that are having the greater effect. So it's still gonna be prone to, bare ground in a lot of the area. I think you are certainly, it sounds like, and I hadn't thought about that, the accessibility, doing a better job in terms of providing a stable path for ADA and other accessibility. So that makes a lot of sense. It's a challenge.
It's a tough site to balance the needs of the public with the environmental impact that it causes.
And I guess part of where my question about the excluding the fence, I don't remember how large, 34 acres or something like that. Is there enough area that you could split it and have half of it open for this period, half of it open for this period, so that you could at least allow some vegetation to establish and then kind of switch over, or not? It sounds like you've got an active volunteer group that is there. Has that ever been broached with them or not?
Can I build on your question too? Because that's something else similar. I was looking at the turf seed and wood chips. I understand the justification as provided, but if we were to slowly restore small sections of it, is there a way to get more native plants in that area, which I would assume would be more resistant to animals, but I'm not a plant expert. I just know my yard turf grass disappears with dogs pretty quick. So I'm just curious.
We have difficulty even getting turf grass to establish on trails. That's why we're also requesting that the wood chips be a possible long-term solution. We already deliver wood chips annually for them to spread at the trail edges to try to keep some of the impacts of erosion at bay. Closing one area and then reopening it, I fear would be an ongoing cycle of continual planting. And it's gonna be trampled yet again without some type of permanent exclusion area, which would come with more difficulty. Again, you'd almost need like a police officer type person from parks to be like, this is no longer a dog area.
And the fact that you've had, I don't know if vandalism is the right term, but you know, if you put up fences and tried some of those things in the past and they tear it down. You know, that's another problem. That I don't know that this body is necessarily able.
That's not voted for a particular mandate, is it?
Okay, right.
Okay,
I mean, this certainly can be an area that we keep on the list for potential restoration efforts or, just discussion. Also curious, if we do a wetland assessment again, to see maybe how that might have changed over time based on the use of the park. But I'm guessing a lot of those are manage A because it's a public park. There's extra scoring for public access.
When was this started? When was this established?
The dog park program initially began, I believe, in 1999. The Battle Creek site was approximately 15 acres north of Lower Afton Road, and it was not a fenced-in area. All the off-leash dog areas were verbal command areas. This was the pilot program, and after they felt it was a good use, they expanded it to a few other sites throughout the county and the regional park system. After a couple of years, we had an incident where a dog was not under verbal command but was hit by a car, so there was a big push for the fencing in of these areas. And this one in particular, through miscommunication and misjudgment, was fenced in far greater than the original intent. And now it's kind of at the point of public ownership and very hard to reverse that course.
I was just curious in terms of, I don't remember when those assessments, early 2000s.
The early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
So it would probably be right in line. So it would be interesting to see how they differ. Make a note of that.
I think it's an admirable thing of trying to make the best situation out of what you got.
Yeah, I do.
Staff recommendation was based heavily on existing knowledge of this particular unique use of the site. I've been out there a number of times and just seemed like an improvement over what's there.
As we look forward and knowing the uniqueness of the sites, I'm curious. You said most of the folks who frequent it consider it a pond for the dogs, which I think it is what it is. Would signage, art, or some other draw to the importance of the wetlands be of value? Not that we have to particularly act on it, but we do have grants for public funded art programs. There's some signage mechanisms to help educate. What help me through y'all's thinking of that when you were planning this forward, looking at this site?
I think it may be a benefit just to let them know
What it is?
where they are, even just posting signs that these are wetland buffers and they contribute to the health of the ecosystem in the following ways. May strengthen the cause behind some of our thoughts and discussions with the watershed in trying to limit some of the destruction, still providing access, but if we fence off 90% of this wetland where you enjoy taking your dog for a swim, here's a valid reason why, so keep the traffic to some area.
It seems like to make big change in something that I think you coined it well, feeling publicly owned. Small signage and education seems like a really good start for it. does it change where I vote on this particular permit? I don't think so, but it would be a wonderful thing to look into as you go deeper into this program or into this project. I think awareness is just the first problem. Further questions for Nicole Schlesman? Okay, do I have a motion to approve permit 2610?
I will, motion that we approve, permit 26.
Second.
Wonderful. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. All those abstain say abstain.
Abstain.
2610 passes.
Just getting through construction will be a challenge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Honestly, signage I think would be not a bad call. I mean, you could probably think of better ideas, but something similar. Nicole, regulatory program memorandum.
Yeah, we've listed the number of inspections, violations and meetings. Certainly can take any questions on those. And then a couple of notable updates. We went through some escalated enforcement on a site in Oakdale, a mixed residential that was having issues with a lot of sediment tracking, just uncontrolled access in and out of a very large site. And just, really unacceptable amount of sediment in the street, a new street that the city had just recently built. And so Kendra was the inspector on that site and made a number of efforts to get them into compliance. And it eventually took getting our attorneys involved. And magically, when the stop work order came out is when we had improved conditions. So we didn't actually need to issue that stop work order, which we're all thankful for, but certainly a frustrating experience for Kendra. And the other city of Oakdale was involved, Mary as well.
Could you say more about the partnership with the city of Oakdale?
Yeah, I might actually have Kendra weigh in on how she approaches sites in Oakdale specifically, and then if you want to talk, Kendra, about anything about Helmo.
Yeah, definitely. For Oakdale, we coordinate with the city, and it's Bolton and Mink that they contract through. So Zach with Bolton and Mink, we schedule every 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks inspections together, and that's for private sites in Oakdale. And yeah, the city's been a consistent partner throughout the life of this project, which has been helpful for these inspections as well as continuing enforcement during this last month. And Helmo Station especially, it's such a large site, and just dealing with, changes in weather, but also failure to uphold the permit within a timely manner has kind of resulted in what was seen in the report in those pictures. But yeah, I'm very grateful for the city and Mary and Nicole and the permit team for helping with this. And I'm glad that it's back in compliance, and I hope that it stays that way.
Is the developer involved with this project one that is new to the district? Have we had any prior experience?
We work with Enclave. Nicole, I don't know if.
Yeah, I think we've had, at least during my time, we've had an application, but I don't know. I think that project did not go forward. So I can't recall if we've actually had something built by Enclave. Enclave is a little unique in that they're essentially all in-house. So their real estate, their construction, everything is Enclave. So it's not like a contracting company that we've worked with before. And so that was a different experience. But they are a large developer. I just don't think we've had particular experience with them.
not to try to diagnose an issue that you guys aptly solve. What did their inspection, because they're required to do their own inspections, what did their records look like?
So this site was unique. It's parsed into 3 different parcels. Parcel 3 is north of 3rd Street, and parcels 1 and 2 are south. And so what is north is strictly townhomes, and that's under kind of one inspector, and then the apartments south are under another. So it was interesting. The person conducting inspections for the apartments was definitely more on top of conducting those weekly inspections, providing me site maintenance and photos for updates. And it definitely took a lot more in-field education and bringing in higher ups to kind of work with the inspector for the townhomes portion of the site. And that's where we were seeing a lot of the non-compliance issues. And everyone's like weekly inspection forms, I feel like, are different, but they use Procore, and specifically in the inspection report, it calls out like RBMP's functional or maintenance as described in the SWIP. And so per the permit, they're required to amend the SWIP if things aren't functioning. And that was one of the items that has been longstanding, was to submit amendments for specific lots within the townhomes. So with that, like that didn't happen. So then when they were filling out the reports, then they were like, oh, all is well with what's called out in the SWIP, but more needed to be installed. So that's kind of what I was dealing with. But we got the amendments. So now they're better.
And what is our organization's definition of more quickly? It was one of the last statements on the moving forward where enforcement mechanisms will escalate more quickly. What does that mean to y'all?
Yeah, well, there are permit timeframes, which a lot of those are like 24 hours, 7 days, 14 days. With ours, if they're non-compliant, we're checking back usually within like a week. But yeah, we'll have to see. I've since seen Kendra's last inspection and it was compliant outside of this enforcement process. But yeah, we would be looking to involve attorneys sooner with a letter.
I know, you've had a few of these last couple of years in terms of non-compliance. I'm just trying to understand, is there a scale on the amount of non-compliance? Because there's different scales that would drive you to involving an attorney tomorrow. You know what I mean? In 24 hours, 40 hours, you guys don't.
Yeah.
Is this something that we need to put a stronger process around?
Yeah, we do have an enforcement process, and we have a grading system. So you can be non-compliant and have like a C letter grade, which just means like you have these things, but they're not working well enough. We need you to add more things. Up until an F, which was like, we are observing offsite impacts. So an offsite impact would be a trigger to get, like that's a fail. But now that they kind of know what our process is, we're hoping it doesn't get to that. No one wants to be threatening stop work orders. They've had a lot of their staff at these on-site meetings. So, we obviously spent money on consultants or on our attorneys. So, we're going to be, it kind of depends on, and we also, are factoring in, like Kendra said, the weather. Like it was snow melt, rain, snow, a lot of snow, then a big snow melt again. And so all of those things factor into both a letter grade and how quickly you escalate. But now that they've sort of had the benefit of the doubt situation already, we're on to escalating quicker.
So this is pertaining specifically for the Helmer site, the quicker escalation in the comments, not so much revisiting of the escalation strategy.
Right.
So were the non-compliance items issues, 2 questions, were they more the character using your scoring grading system? Were they more the kind of CD or if you characterize, the degree of
Yeah.
concern. And the second thing is, my reading through this summary, which is a great summary, by the way, my sense is you were seeing repeatedly the same issues. It wasn't that there were new issues coming up. They just had not done anything with the previous requests. So just to verify if that is the correct understanding, or were there new things coming up each time?
I think, I can't remember because there were a number of inspection reports, the letter grades. I think most of the sediment was still on site, if you will, in the street. And, probably some was lost to rainfall that we didn't observe. I don't know if any actual offsite impacts were observed this time, Kendra, but some of the times they would respond with like, well, we did this, but it wasn't sufficient. It wasn't installed properly. So it wasn't always just straight ignoring. We would get responses sometimes, but I don't know, Kendra, if you want to speak in more detail to that.
Yeah, so every inspection that we do with Helmo Station, we have both inspectors on either side of Third Street come and walk the site with us. And we point things out during that inspection in the field. And the last few inspections before that ultimate threatening stop work order was a lot of in-field education, explaining different examples of more robust BMPs. Unfortunately, the inspector was newly certified, so I think it would have helped to have a bigger team to start out, I think, or a more experienced team on site. But yeah, it was a lot of retroactive fixes, as well as installing some, but not all of the BMPs that were needed or required as discussed in the field. And a lot of that, that we talked to with the inspector was not relayed when it should have been to other supervisors on site to assist and to get items on site in a timely manner. So a lot of that discussion, I feel was lost earlier in the process. So
I mean, it does feel to me, and you guys can, I don't think it's at all an action. It just feels like we might want to revisit in these cases where repeated action or poor action is just should accelerate in these instances. I don't want to get overly litigious, but it seems like if there becomes a pattern, if it's 3 times out of the last inspections, we should just move toward more drastic things. And you guys, you're in there more than I am. It just feels that we give a lot of good chances. I think that's good. We trust the goodwill of some of those workers, but in this case, I guarantee you some of that still got somewhere. We just don't know. We can't measure it. It's hard to measure. So it's just one of those, maybe there is a need just to revisit in a special case where a consistent behavior is being noticed over X time course.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that I would really encourage you to, I don't think this is the forum to get, nitty gritty into the enforcement process. But I would really encourage you to consider the nature of sites is one realm. It sounds like this is a large site, fairly complex, new developer, kind of all in-house, thinking of a checklist that,
Inspector.
Yeah, the inspector, not a lot of experience, and that those kinds of considerations might move a aggressive enforcement action, whatever aggressive is meant, Certainly I'm not after the first visit, but I would think, after the second visit, if things have not really markedly improved, that's when action really would need to be taken. My understanding is this kind of went on for over, a month's period. And that just is, a long period of time. And so I just would encourage us to learn from this and maybe build in some considerations in your enforcement process.
It smells,
The
it
scent.
smells similar to, remember when we were looking at evaluating contractors, have they had experience in these particular sites and conditions? Maybe there's something there that we can learn.
Mm.
Yeah, you know, each of these sites, this isn't unique, you know, we've.
Sure,
done
they're all
it the
unique.
time, but they, you know, with the snow, you know, you might
It's a crazy spring.
have something and then it's covered in snow, so you can't, you know, do the actions that you want them to be.
Or you don't frankly have time to re-inspect every
Yeah.
other day. We
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think our enforcement process is meant to be flexible. And you know, you're seeing this in the enforcement report because it is unusual to get to a stop work order, so
absolutely.
just wanna frame it, bring us back down that this is not normal. The amount of time that we spent on this, and yes, they're learning lessons. We just are also want to avoid threatening a stop work order every other week because frankly, it stops becoming,
Powerful.
And,
Yeah.
and then that also does ramp up the amount of work for you as well.
yes, it does.
I just look at like this one in the Heights, you know,
Yep.
or recently,
Yeah.
right? Just, not that it's a pattern, those are just two big ones.
Yeah,
No,
Right.
and they're big sites too, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
it's just adds to the
yeah,
complexity.
yeah, we can look at that. Yeah, just balancing all of those factors is,
Yeah, if y'all feel like it's
we
balanced
just,
there and.
yeah, struggle with it and have for years about should we move to this quicker or this quicker? It really depends on the site personnel too, because usually in-field education is like the best solution. In this case, it was not getting through.
I guess the other thing that I would put forward is the degree of benchmarking that we've done with Cap Region or Rice Creek or, you know, any of their watershed districts or even MPCA. I'm not familiar with all you had a little bit of time in that program, you know, how quickly they ramp up. I don't know, but if there are things we can maybe learn from other programs, people that are doing similar kinds of work to inform kind of how fast or slow we should. Just something to consider.
Yeah, we meet with other watershed districts, regulatory teams in particular. So we have a metro regulators group that we kind of discuss these various issues. We're not alone in it, serious. And what was I gonna say? Oh, the MPCA, we meet with them or have met with them the last 2 years on an annual basis just to discuss what their inspection priorities are. They're very short staffed as well, and we don't really see them out. They kind of depend on us as MS4s to do the inspection along with the cities. So that's what we've been doing, but yeah,
I'm happy it's resolved.
yeah.
I think on these big sites, maybe that's a trigger for something different because I believe we'll continue to see big sites.
Yes.
It sounds like it was stressful just gauging off of tone.
Yeah.
I'm happy you're smiling now, Kendra.
It's time.
Yeah, she did really well. And her and Mary were on site providing that education, which I think is super helpful. Made me want to look at our inspection fees. We haven't increased in a long time, so that's certainly something that we would look to do and bring that back to the board before.
Or maybe scale it with site.
Yeah, just to recuperate staff time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. Any other questions for Nicole? Thank you for that. Right up in tangent.
Yeah, I just want to shout out to, speaking of education, we were able to present, Paige helped out presenting to a contracting company, sort of all their superintendents and foremans in one place, which I think was really a cool way to, you know, access a different audience. it didn't take the place of a certification training that a lot of these folks are required to take, but it just was really like, this is what we're looking for as inspectors, and showing pictures, like what's wrong with this picture. And I don't know, Paige or Kendra, like I think it sounded like it went really well. And I just think that's a really cool thing that we were contacted to present there, so.
Very nice. Thank you much. Transition to 6th session. See.
A few applications, both from staff approval and then that you saw on the consent agenda. Noting that the community partner grant did go live. Those applications are due April 15th. And by due, those are just the prioritized ones. We'll accept applications after that, but it'll be subject to available funding following that. Street sweeping also went out. Those applications went out to all the cities. And so we've got 4 so far. We've got interest from a couple others. And then those are due by June 15th. But yeah, I'll take any questions.
So we've used a lot of the street sweeping budget, which is good. The equipment purchase piece, which is that extra 100. Could you help remind me what the plan is for that?
The city of White Bear Lake was approved for 100,000. 30, I think about 34-35% funding up to $100,000. They have talked to / have the equipment under contract, and it will be operable hopefully for the fall sweeping.
Okay.
So we are working through getting agreement for reporting.
Okay. Thank you. And that is included already? It is included already.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Oh no, my computer. Okay. Moving on to item number 7, BMP maintenance program selection and contractors. And is that what was passed out?
No, so the
That was
BMP
email,
maintenance
correct?
program was the email that was sent to you separately. So that information was sent separate because of the private data that's included in there. If you have any questions, you're welcome to answer them, and we can answer those questions out loud, and it's fine to have those discussions. And then the recommendation would be in the email from our staff recommendation.
Looking forward, will we always get bids in this manner?
Only for requests for proposals or requests for qualifications like this. Yep. So our public bidding process will come this one.
Yeah, that's what I was just wanted to ask.
Yep.
I'll call it the scoring system.
Yeah.
That was used. Is that new?
Yes. So we
Technically,
yes, we had, like I said, so the last time around we did this was 2023. And we only received 5 or 6 bids or quotes. So we had, I would say, a little less informal, and then we streamlined it quite a bit more for this town.
I'd like
Given the number that we received.
to see some of the outcomes of the DEIA and the scoring mechanisms workshops that we got. Appreciate that.
And trying to get a little better understanding of, in the past, I think Pager, my understanding was, you may be off, but that it was a little more flexible in a sense. And this time, kind of upfront, identifying based on the amount of work that it's anticipated in the budget, that 3 contractors were going to be targeted to be selected. And I'm curious how that was kind of arrived at, in a sense.
Yeah, like the number of contractors or?
Yeah, because I think in the past, it's been a larger number, and some are.
So we've always had 3 in this program for our maintenance program, yes. And that's just worked out well with the number of sites and splitting it up, making sure that, no contractors overwhelmed. You know, when we looked at it, we have the natural resource sites and then the BMP sites that are mostly green gardens. So we kind of looked at it that way, like which contractors, based on their qualifications or our experience, could handle those sites. Yeah, is that answering?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was of the understanding, but it seems, when this is the second time I've been through it, but
Yeah.
I was of the understanding that we'd had a larger number, like 5 or 6 contractors, but it's been 3.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
and that's
yes.
my,
We may have had other, like for, like some of our targeted retrofits, that's tied, like Cottage Place will have a maintenance
sure.
contract with the contractor that did that install, so there's some of those that's separate.
And looking at those criteria, and I like the DEI as well. I don't know much about, there are a few of these contractors that I have, I don't know, just maybe a little bit of experience or exposure in the past, but it seems like some of the small ones might be a little bit more challenging for, you know, if it's a 3 or 4, you know, or even 2, you know, family business type thing, that, you know, DEI might not be something they're necessarily going to incorporate. And I would hope that we, in the qualifications, would be kind of aware of those situations in a sense. I don't think that we intentionally tried to exclude smaller versus larger. That's not where I'm going. But the fact that there are different scales of companies and their ability to, you know.
Yeah, and that is considered, I would say, in the experience. And maybe a little more, and so we try to work in like some of our past experiences with some of the companies too, or the understanding of how big their crews are. I mean, that definitely is a consideration. So there might be, right, if they are a smaller company, they have less crew size, that does play into their ability to, you know, perform the work under the contracts. But I get what you're saying. The DEI, I think was all women owned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think in this case, yeah.
I mean, and it frankly looks appropriately weighted. Just heavy weightings for the cost. It looks, this is effectively a binary yes or no.
Right.
Any further questions, or do I have a motion to award the 2026-2028 BNP maintenance contracts to Rockleaf Water Environmental Davy Research Group and Natural Shore Technologies for the project specified above? Direct staff to prepare the necessary documents, work with selected contractors. So moved. Any further comments, questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. All abstain, so abstain. I've gotten very, very used to those two voices. Moving to action item 7B.
Yeah, so that is the one that was handed out here. Thanks for
Yes, no, yes, apologize that you didn't get this sooner, just fitting timelines. Opened those yesterday, and this is for the Gustavus project, if you want me to do any background, but you saw that last month and, probably a few months prior to that as well. But we received two bids, McLafferty Contracting, which, as you see in the write-up, was formerly Shoreline Landscaping, so we worked with them on a number of projects. And they were the low bid, and then Boulder Creek was the other contractor that bid on that.
I don't recognize the second bullet on the requested action. Once necessary submittals received, review as a contract signed by all. Is that part of the motion?
Oh yeah, you can just read the
The first bullet?
requested from the packet
Oh.
instead. accept the bids or from the board action requested, and then just insert.
Which makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, this was,
Specific to what Bar does
Yeah.
for getting some contracts ready.
That's the next step.
yeah.
It's apparent that the one bid was outside of the engineer's probable cost range. And the other one was within it, and that's a low bid.
I think we've asked this a few times when we get these types of bids that a little higher than probable cost, just generally. Any driving factor?
It's really difficult to tell.
Okay.
Right, I mean, there's a whole range of things that could influence a contractor's bid. Ask and speculate, there's a couple of unique things with this project, right? There's a couple of time constraints with it, in and around the state fair. There also is a connection component with City of St. Paul utilities, so they're a specialty contractor or designation to do that work. It could be those, it could be a number of different also.
I appreciate the guesswork and that point. Just was curious. We're seeing some rising prices just generally for other things, and it just made me wonder if that was the driving factor. Any further questions? Okay, do I have a motion to accept the bid and award the 2026 target retrofit Gustavus office project to Loft Contracting Group LLC and direct staff to prepare and mail the notice of award, prepare the agreements, and review the required submittals.
Seconded?
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All say all who say nay, all say abstain. Okay. Thank you. That action item passes. Looking to you, Tori, attorney report.
Good evening, everyone. Don't have much to report tonight other than our standard document review and what we've already talked about, which was that stop work order that we prepared for that one permit holder that fell out of compliance. So unless you have any other questions for me, that's it tonight.
Thank you, Tori. Moving forward to board discussions. Any topic of notes across the board? We have spent, or at least some of us around the table, already an hour together. So going to assume we've discussed quite a lot in the month of March today. The workshop, if you guys are curious, I think there's going to be a summary. I don't remember if there's going to be a summary of the workshops.
For the workshop we just had?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
the
Oh.
EIA one.
Oh, that's a good question. Yes, there will be some sort of summary and they're recorded.
Great.
If anyone's interested, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to draw attention to
Yeah.
the summary when
Yeah,
that's out.
thank you.
If you guys were interested in some of the conclusions, there was a lot of passion behind it, a lot of good ideas.
Yeah.
Excited to see how we can reach more of the people who live in our district. I think that's going to be fun.
And some of that planning too will end up in our plan, in our
Implementation
water.
plan,
plan.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I thought I was going to say the whole first session and then did.
I'm glad it worked out,
Yeah. Looking to new reports and presentations, the project cost benefit analysis.
Yeah, so we just included this in the packet this month because of last month, there was some discussion around about the tool and how it works, and realizing that there's some board members that maybe haven't seen this information presented in the memo format like this. And because it is something that we're annually updating, this was a good opportunity to share with you after the new information was updated. Cool. So it's really for your information. Happy to answer any questions amongst us that are here. Yeah.
So I always like these because I think they should be made clearly public because we are good stewards of the money.
Mhm.
As I look at messaging these types of numbers, helping people understand, there's the cost of TP removal, but there's also the cost of not doing anything.
Mhm.
And my hypothesis would be that the costs of TP removal significantly is less expensive than the cost of not doing something.
Yeah.
How do we message that to members in the district who are curious or want to learn more about, okay, well, what if we don't do anything? You know,
Yeah, yeah.
what are your thoughts?
We have done some of that messaging, I mean, not in the more recent years. And there's definitely been research around that.
Yeah.
That we can point to, but
I'd be comfortable with like this memo like
Yeah.
this in the future
Yeah.
at a point to
Sure.
to
Yeah.
research.
I think that's a good idea. You know, and we could message that a little bit around when we're, you know, showing our 10-year plan
Right.
and looking at projects and the scale. And we'll definitely have some discussion in the plan itself, some narrative around budgeting and cost effectiveness. And
Yeah, I mean,
there probably will be some discussion around that. And
I would love that as part of the planning because, you know, in truth, even as we look forward to the enhanced street sweeping
Yeah.
for one of the least expensive BMPs I've seen in a long time. And so I just look at, good stewards of the money. This makes a lot of sense. It does seem like it's a perfect storm of the need, technology, decisions, you know, benefit, and painting that story either to the plan or as we go forward would be nice.
Yeah.
Comment twice. Okay. I have no other comments. What are you guys are curious at all?
The fact that it's being revised annually, it's great to see it. I think I've seen it one other time. So I don't know, I might suggest, you know, kind of on a recurring every couple of years or something, whatever the frequency to just put this back. It's pretty short.
Yeah.
Yeah, good information, so appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it's you know, you see some of it when we do new projects,
Yeah.
you know, so you'll get to see at least how that project aligns and that data is, you know, behind that.
Not
That
to
was interesting.
not to ask put you on the spot at all, Brandon or you, Tina. Do we know how it compares to other rural or other urban districts?
I mean, I would assume it'd be very similar, considering we're doing similar projects and similar places.
Kind of assumed. I was just
I don't know.
like, I don't care about the tails. Is the mass similar? That's more of what I'm interested in, or at least your single standard deviation as you.
Yes, given the type of land use, right? The
Yeah.
more
Right.
urban areas, these
That
numbers
would be
would
more.
compare.
Yeah.
As you start to change landscape where density becomes less and you go from to suburban to more rural,
Yeah.
the curves start to change.
That is true. So I'm going to walk away with the conclusion of we're probably on par with other.
Yeah. Yeah. I think generally when we see project presentations at conferences, you know, that it would be, we'd be seeing similar things.
Is there, go back, is there a way to somehow communicate the differences across BMP types?
Not in this memo, but in the database, yes. And so one of the really neat things about this database is it goes back now 30, 35 years. And all the BMPs are split out by type. And so you can go into the spreadsheet and filter. You can start to identify more efficient ones versus less efficient ones. That doesn't mean you need to put all your eggs in one basket, but it does allow you to look at trends and parse the data in different ways.
I wish at the Minnesota watersheds there was like an actual discussion on some of these, because I bet you will find that maybe there's pockets of urban areas that found efficient ways of doing certain BMPs that could be outliers and utilized more broadly.
Yeah, and I mean, some of those BMPs, when they first come online and are more experimental, may be
Yeah.
more expensive versus when they become more standardized, the cost may drop. Familiarity with them, you know, there might be some safeguards, you can kind of, well, we've already built in those assumptions. So if you're really just straight out looking at the capture, you know, it's a capture rate against the cost. There are a number of other variables that factor in there, and you know, BMP type is certainly one of those. That's why I was kind of curious if that had been something that had been thought of, or if it could be included somehow, but understand it probably would cloud the communication of this, but
Yeah, I do think we communicated as we're looking at like targeted retrofits, you'll often hear
Yep.
talk about how we're first looking, you know, for opportunities to do surface basins before we look to underground or tree trenches. And so I think there is some kind of communication around that.
yeah.
I like this analysis. Thank you. Further questions? Really excited about the enhanced street sweeping.
Go to it then.
Yeah.
Covering that.
Well, Ashley or we have Michael McKinney online too. I don't know if you want to kick it off, Ashley.
Sure. So every year we provide a summary of last year's activities for the street sweeping program. And so this summarizes our 2025 street sweeping. We had 3 applications, and 217,000 of the 250,000 was approved, and almost all of it was utilized. So of what was approved, I believe 81% was actually reimbursed. So good. We got, I think all the cities had 2 extra sweepings. It was Oakdale, St. Paul, and Woodbury. Woodbury might have even had 3. And then looking at the costs, yeah, they're a really cheap BMP. So I'll take any specific questions folks have.
Couple. Since these are municipalities that we're working with, and it's going to be by municipalities, but are there street sweeping routes, areas that are being considered? Are they excluding county and state directed roadways?
Yeah, I don't think they have authority to be on those. So
Yeah.
yeah, so these are just city streets.
Yep. Just that's what I thought. I just wanted to confirm that.
And it's a subset of city streets. We're not doing all of them, correct?
Yes.
They're like targeted areas.
Targeted areas within them. Yeah.
And then just the observation of these 3, I think St. Paul is a little bit separate from the other 2 cities in terms of their utilization of the monies and the return on those monies.
Yeah.
And do we have a sense of kind of why that is? Is there a story there?
Yeah, so St. Paul, the streets they're sweeping are much denser. They have a lot of vehicles on them. So there's a lot, and there's also a lot more debris that can't be swept up. So they run larger crews with more equipment when they are street sweeping. So I think they run like an 8-person crew with 3 to 5 pieces of equipment. And that's hoping that there's not glass on the road, because then they have to call a different crew in for cleanup. But and so they get, I think 12 crew days or 8 of sweeping. So
just more challenging conditions.
Yep.
Yep, that's Makes sense. I thought there
Yeah.
was probably a story that I just wasn't getting, so
Yeah,
thank you.
that's the cost, and then two for the sweeping, I think, I don't know if we didn't highlight it in this one, but we did note like the amount of money spent, like if we look at the cost benefit from their 2024 to 2025, and that was just different timing, so these additional sweepings were specifically those summer and before leaf off. So they got a little bit less material collected than you would see in like a post fall additional sweep.
Actually, I seem to recall conversations earlier, and I can't remember if it's 2025, where we ran into some challenges with a contracted sweeping effort.
Yes, so I think that was the Wiper Lake typically.
Oh, that was the way, but like, thank you.
Yeah, yep,
So
and
that
so
was back in the 2024.
2024, yeah.
And that probably, does that in part at least bring us to Wayfair's interest in 100,000? Yeah, good. So we're learning as we go.
Yes.
Good.
I am. Sustaining funding.
Mhm.
I think that's a pretty smart model. It also seems like a good model to pursue if we're trying to encourage municipalities to kind of stand up their own efforts. Can you say more about that?
So we've discussed it internally. The hardest thing is that our budgets are annual and your board terms are limited. And so there's somewhat of a hesitancy to promise money into the future that we might not be, like, we can do it and we can budget it, but then we have to think a lot really strategically about how we're doing that and who it's going to and how much could we sustain long term for those.
Well, I'm thinking like the stewardship grant dollars themselves can't bridge years now. So would this just be a much longer time frame in which they bridge the years? Is that the thought? Because like you can correct me if I'm mistaken, but I think we can provide a grant. That grant might take us into next year. Y'all know how to budget that appropriately.
Mhm.
But they can span years. It feels like it's a stewardship grant. Is this that much more complicated to extend? Or maybe try 2 years, because it seems like you already are bridging 2
Yeah.
years right now.
Yep, it's something we've talked about internally. We haven't been pressed super hard on it. Cities have asked about it. Most of those cities are just coming back and applying annually anyways. So it's something we're looking into for sure. Every year when we do a summary review with Michael, we talk about it, like, well, pros, cons, do we do it? So they are typically some of the more expensive requests as well.
And I don't know if, in the map that's provided of the three applicants, there's a large portion of the district that is not covered. And I don't know if some of those municipalities are stumbling over, whatever their challenge or the reluctance, if a multi-year might make it a little bit more attractive for them. Is that something that we can kind of explore, talk, get a better understanding with them? Because I'm kind of toying with just as Val said, I think we have the ability, you have the ability to kind of budget over years, but I'm thinking like the flood resiliency fund, that's a specific fund that's been carved out for those kinds of projects, and it can, often they are longer period, and this is just such a, super BMP cost effective that I think we should be fully invested in whatever that takes. We ought to really
Right, so
talk
as a
about it.
board,
Think
you
about it.
could levy funds, right, and earmark those for
Multi-year.
multi-year
Yeah.
carryover for, that is something that's a possibility.
I would really like to see y'all's take on how to do that, because this just seems like awesome. I mean, certainly in terms of TP removal
Right,
and outreach stuff.
Yeah.
To that effect.
Can I add one thing? thing, Mark, I think too, like if you're looking at this map, in here, which is great, and I put that together, but some of the areas that aren't highlighted, they're
They're
like
doing
maybe
it.
meeting or
Yeah.
exceeding already the.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so
Shooting.
that's a good
So-
point.
Yes,
Yeah,
that might be good to show too. We
yeah.
probably have that somewhere.
yeah, the 2022 bar report
Yeah.
summarizes what cities were already doing. And a lot of them are already meeting the two minimum and then going above and beyond. And so like for Roseville's a great instance where they're going super above and beyond. And we just can't get staff to apply because they're busy.
Yeah.
So, and they've worked it into their budget so closely that the grant dollars would be great, but it's already inherently built into them, so.
And I think that they, the ones that last year had the intern idea,
Yeah,
so
2 years
they're
ago.
already kind of think they're in a
Yeah,
different.
they're
Yeah.
pushing the limits and boundaries of what they can do and what looking for new ways, so. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of other good stuff still going on in the district.
Yeah, I don't know, just from a communication standpoint, when you're going to the districts or the municipalities, I don't know, it might be valuable to somehow code that or whatever to show areas that are going kind of over and above.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like there's a couple of fun things you guys can look into. I would love to have the conversation at the budgeting timeframes, which I know start soon. About what it looks like for that or multi-year and pros and cons for sure. The building on this concepts that we discussed during the workshop, is there a pathway to establishing these municipalities to where they automatically stand on their own like Roseville is currently doing? And I don't know what the timeline is for that, but it seems like longer term investments and helping them stand up and see the value would be one of those things.
Some of that is the equipment purchasing too, right?
Well,
So they're
exactly.
supporting equipment that they're using, yeah.
It's a, it could become less of a, hey, you need this bolus of dollars. Maybe it becomes, we'll help you maintain your equipment, or we'll help in this instance, or hire your intern or whatnot. Just some thoughts as you go, but I like the idea of, because of how cost effective this is, geez, it just seems like it pays itself back pretty quick. Last question on your from me, from your enhanced street sweeping guide and application. It feels that all the requests, this is going in the selection process, all the requests are going to be over 5K. What would prevent us from saying, hey, staff, you guys have the ability to approve requests of higher amount?
Yeah, I mean,
Why
that would
5K?
be, well, that's what all of our stewardship grant program guideline is, so anything below 5K is staff approved and everything else comes before you.
Well, I apologize. I was just going off these are typically higher scale, like cost programs. So
I think some of these are just, if that's a carryover from the
What we've
rest of
done
the grant
previously.
program,
if that's what it needs to be, I'm fine with it. It just seems like, again, pretty low cost.
I mean, we don't get a large volume of these, so the fact that that they all come to you is, a handful.
Yeah, I mean, it's not more work on us.
Right.
It's thinking if it's easier on y'all.
We did have one staff approval this month for landfall. They were right at that 5K mark.
Okay, good. I didn't realize that was even possible. That helps. Okay. I don't know how others feel. I'd be comfortable having that high, but I will defer to the group.
And we can look at that, and that can be something when we talk about funding,
Why don't
or
we
when
tee that up during?
the annual update
Why don't we-
program,
Tee that up in that. Any other questions for Ashley? Or Michael, who said nicely quiet? No.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you. Moving to the administrative report, item number 11.
Yes, I have a couple things on here this month. My meetings attended in March, and then upcoming meetings, just to note, the Metro Watersheds meeting got moved in May. You should have seen an email from me about that. Waterfest, we'll be here before we know it. So mark your calendars, and I believe volunteer requests have come up, so you should have seen that as well. Let me know if you haven't, let Lauren know.
See that, you want us to go through that mechanism?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, if you're willing to come in, like actually, be volunteer versus just being around.
Yeah, last year I just kind of showed up and I felt
Which
that.
is fine too. That's fine too. Few anniversaries, a big one and some small ones, both very important in this group. Jewel with her 1 year, which is exciting.
Yeah. Eric's
Eric,
reached his,
24.
what, legal, winter state.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, so the board action line, we talked a little bit about that. I didn't update the date, but I'll make sure that gets updated next time, but I think we're looking at June for a potential workshop for that. For the wetlands stuff. Payroll issue update, we're pretty much squared away. We're signing plans to move over to the new payroll provider. That will be happening shortly. And as was mentioned here, my pay is gonna take care of any fees and tax liability things that came because of the issues, so.
Seems like the least they could do.
Yep. We got the Ramsey County League of Local Governments update that Paige wrote up for you all. She's been very involved in that group over the last 2 years. And I put the link there at the end of that too for your information. They do quite a few really interesting events throughout Ramsey County, so.
It is a huge board.
Yeah,
Holy
it's a
bucket.
big board, a lot of local government in
Yeah.
Ramsey County, so everyone gets some representation. And then they have an alternate for each of the members.
I like the acronym CLAW because it's the bad guy from Inspector Gadget in these TV shows.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if you had anything.
No, I was just looking through if I added, so this year, the focus is chloride reduction, and we're going to be, I think, our next meeting is next week. Bringing a list of strategies to the CLAW group to talk about and guide our focus for this year. And one of the items on there is working with the PCA to have a host chloride training, and it's for like managers and implementers. So it'd be something we would put out for you all to attend. It's a 2-hour virtual training.
Do they record some of those trainings out of curiosity?
No, I don't. No, why not? We did meet, the club group met with the PCA, a small group of us, a few weeks ago to talk about that. Is that something we could do?
I think it's a fee thing, like we pay for those trainings.
Oh,
Yeah,
understood.
yes. And actually, so now that you say that, this one might be, I'll have to ask, because this one is hosted by a Green Corps. So as long as we are able to do it by September, it's a free training. Oh, so maybe this one they would record.
I mean, there's been some movement in other associations where you can pay a separate fee to get the digital copies.
Yeah,
So
right.
there's
Yeah, that
mechanisms
makes
to it.
sense
But
too,
just from poking around and reading, it did sound like they had a lot of interesting offerings. It'd be a shame to not be able to pick up some.
Yeah, it's been fun to see some momentum in that group, and having water as a theme is really great. Opportunity for the watershed districts to all the cities to.
I like it.
Yeah. Just water.
I
Can't
didn't
get
have,
broader than that.
I didn't have a chance to open the link, but the summary was great. It sounds like a fantastic group.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
A lot of opportunity for network.
Yep.
On the action log, I wrote this down, but I believe the workshop it clarified. So the wetlands topic workshop stuff will have the balance and all the other
Yep.
stuff, and
That
buffers
was
and
like
everything else.
everything.
Okay, that was the
Rolled
question.
into one.
I
Maybe
remember
like a super workshop.
remember talking about it. Yeah.
And a lot of it is just, there was some learning, education opportunities, and then also we haven't forgot this. This is how we're gonna build the city, the rules or plan process.
And Any other questions for Tina? Hope you guys celebrate with Eric. That's a lot of years. Before we jump into the projects and program status reports, I just figured I'd ask a higher level question. So it sounds like you guys got 2 denials for grants and 1 acceptance for grants. Do y'all just want to talk about that broadly? Or
Yes. I do.
Well,
I
the
think
one
in my
we
head-
had was the big one, so we
Yeah,
were.
figured I'd ask. I have the comments per if you prefer it that way. I was just like, hey, there's multiple mentions of the grant.
Yes, yes, so we did get, oh my God, they're all on
The Ames Lake.
The Ames Lake one,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
And
the
then-
landfall one, and we missed the.
So we packaged up the landfall one and the battle
That's right. It was
Yeah.
one. It was, we packaged them together looking at water quality improvements through that corridor. That was one that we missed. We did get the Ames Lake one. That one covers the remaining covers site characterization tasks, community outreach, and preparation of final plans and specifications. So it goes everything all the way through just up until bidding. That one, we got the $270,000 grant with a $30,000 match. So essentially it funds 90% of the whole project.
and we had funding line items. I was trying to look it up, and I just didn't have the bandwidth at the time. We had funding line items for each of those. And so will we, outside of the grant match, would we balance or have a conversation about balancing it if we had more than, blanking on how much we actually budgeted for it?
Yeah, I can't remember either if we just budgeted plans for next year. I think so.
We just budgeted plans for next
Yeah.
for
But I think we budgeted the
This
whole
year.
amount, so
Yeah, so I'm just,
the grant helps, right? So we'd have money available.
if we
had
wanted to,
overages.
say, repurpose it for the landfall combined.
We budgeted for that too, so. All
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
work will get done,
I get what you're saying
but
now.
we have,
Understood.
yeah, so we'll have some carryover in that
Yeah,
fund.
in that particular
based
fund,
on the
because of the Ames Lake.
grant, right?
And then other good news, I don't even think I had a chance to tell Tina this, but we, it's just today.
Wait, let's watch Tina's face. Yeah.
So don't get too excited, but it's for the 3M PFAS settlement grant, we were invited to do a 30-minute meeting. To talk about funding for that, the Fish Creek project, so.
But not.
I'm guessing other people didn't get that, so.
So that's the double driveway thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So this is
yeah.
not, we weren't funded.
Not yet,
But
yes,
big step.
We got a conversation.
yeah, so we'll have that in like a couple of years.
Area of our product.
The same kind of topic of funding. What about Coleman Creek, Wasn't that,
Coleman Lake.
yeah, Coleman Lake.
Well, that was the other one we did a PFAS. for.
Yes, and
Grant for,
I
and we must not have, we didn't
I
get.
haven't seen anything on that one yet.
No meeting.
Probably.
So we don't know, it's not a denial or a.
Not
Right.
even denial.
Yes, and we were at the Minnesota Stormwater Pond Symposium
Yeah.
yesterday and today, and there was a lot of people talking about this.
Who got
So I'll
emails
be,
into this?
yeah, well, I haven't heard yet. These came through like right at lunch. And I didn't hear anyone else say anything. So, maybe they're all keeping it.
I really appreciate the funding summary at the upfront. It just seems like it was a common thread through
yeah.
several of them.
It's a busy time, I guess, for grant.
Okay. Moving forward. Okay, so we just found out about the claw stuff might be a free, that would be great.
Yep.
Our next question's on. Oh, that was a great question. My next question's on G.
Have 1C,
Perfect.
can I do that one? So the chloride reduction strategy, I'm just curious if there's a comparable model or calculation method like is available for the eutrophication, phosphorus calculator. Something similar, is there something similar for chloride?
Or when you say the phosphorus, that's the,
Yeah,
The
the
stuff with the
BPA's
Oh.
phosphorus, the Hobie et al., that phosphorus calculator associated with the street sweeping.
I don't know.
I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm thinking that we probably know a lot about phosphorus, how it's bound.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything
things like
that's
that, but
the
I'm
same.
curious, there's a lot of talk about fluoride, and
Oh.
is there a way to kind of standardize, you know, how to make estimates of, well, if we do this, we probably would be doing this kind of, this level of reduction?
No.
Yeah, okay. All right, Ashley says no.
Research isn't there yet,
Yeah.
so
That's kind of
that's
what I thought.
it's, some of it I think is in process, but it's all just research right now, trying to figure out even what plant biomass concentrations are and if there's uptake here or there, and
Yeah, that all makes sense. So maybe kind of chunk that away somewhere in the back recesses.
Yeah,
It'd be
it's-
great to have something like that.
yeah, those were kind of my first questions to Tyler of like, well, do we know how chloride acts in these areas or not? Can we lump a BNP into this category, or
Yeah.
can we lump land use into this category? And that stuff's just not there yet. So that's part of what will happen with the
Strategy.
CRS.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Work in progress.
Yep, thank you. My next one is F. You hit G.
I hit you, FG.
And then I'm done. I'm just curious. I'm really excited about these creek walks. We've heard them a couple times. Do we have a sense, you know, the data was collected and put it in GIS, and it sounds like now Bar and the district are kind of sorting through the GIS results and, you know, putting a story together. Do we have a sense when we might hear kind of something at the board that, hey, this is what we found? I mean, 3 months?
Yes, well, it
12
looks
months?
like it says we'll document the prioritization framework in the summer, and then design will begin this year yet, so of our first project. So you'll see, I would guess summer, early fall.
Okay, cool.
Where
Is
we're
that
at.
right?
Yeah, I think so.
I was just reading.
I didn't want to put it too urgent, but I'm excited.
Yeah,
Kinda
no, I
wanted-
think the team is working to finalize the framework for the scoring and identifying areas. And right now, we're looking at adjusting the scoring and comparing that back to staff observations when they did those walks on, this looks bad. Well, how does that score? And should it rank where it ranks? And just at that high level, making sure we're dialing that in.
Yeah.
There are still 2 creeks that need to be walked this spring.
Okay.
And so before we identify sort of a recommendation for a projects or a prioritized list, we want to make sure we have a full, complete picture in there so we don't miss something. So if we can get those walked yet this spring when it stops snowing, then I would expect that we would bring kind of that full story, both the framework and the results, back to the board this early summer, or getting towards the end of the spring here.
Would y'all be open to taking a straggler or two on a creek walk?
I think that is a question for
So
Kyle.
that- yeah, Kyle and
District
I'm
staff.
sure.
I'm sure they wouldn't be opposed to that.
Yeah.
Just maybe as a, I don't know, Tina, if you're like to send an email to the board and be like, hey, here's when they are, if you're available. Always insightful.
Yeah.
To go with you guys to the field.
That was really soft. Were you, I missed the question.
Oh, they're talking about interest in maybe attending some of the creek walk that you have coming up this year.
In the creek itself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get the
Yeah.
boots on, let's go.
Yeah, I think we have a couple pairs of waders lying around that you could borrow.
Yeah, we'll be in touch with them.
Thank you. So, G, I mentioned during the workshop, but I'm gonna ask it here. So I really like our targeted shooting for wetland restoration. I like the idea of the functional assessment. I'm curious if there's like a piecemeal way of slowly restoring areas around. I know we typically look at wetland restorations for a large enough area for the return on investment. And I'm curious if there's a return on investment even in smaller areas where we might not put in the same effort we would do in a big scale, but like small scale improvements here and
For
there,
wetlands.
for wetlands specifically.
I mean, those things do come up and we do, our team works through those as they come up, but
Like as you're ranking the assessments, the last few discussions we talked about size and all that kind of. I'm curious if there are like examples of the small ones that might find a way into an assessment to help us understand if there's value. I just think of like, how do we take these big, in an urban area, finding big land is hard, finding smaller land is easier.
yeah.
Can we make at least an incremental difference?
Yeah. I mean, we do have the assessment or we did a study, to look for sites that would be good for
it's like early
restoration, and
2020,
they range, in size from large. It's just, I guess we
Like,
were looking for bigger sites. I think, as opportunities arise, we would look at smaller ones, but
I'm thinking like
I'm not
we're
sure how
thinking
to
about how to fully
prioritize that.
recoup the wetland, and we can talk about it offline too. I was just is there a way to make smaller progress with less effort in these small areas? That's more what I'm thinking. Sounds good. As you guys plan it out, I'd love to just have some thoughts. I'm finding like small incremental improvements. Yeah. Throw it on the workshop, super workshop. We'll be together for 12 hours. Cool. Thank you for entertaining.
Yeah.
My next question is on R. It's the high level one. Is there something that we should be concerned about from the status?
No.
Yes. Wanted to check.
What?
Oh, no, this one is, so in order to get sorry, we can jump to R.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. When you upload the utility information to Gopher State One, you upload electronic files.
Yeah.
And we completed this, the survey on the Beltline this last winter. We have a survey for Battle Creek. There is the very, very downstream segment, a couple hundred feet, that we're going to get we're missing. There's a question as to what the exact alignment is.
Okay.
So that's the additional survey. We're going to wait on that. I expect that survey to be in the next couple of weeks, weather dependent, and then we do an upload all at once.
Summarize, make sure. So we knew about this particular our own discharge in the Battle Creek. The additional survey does not imply that there's an additional inflow into the Battle Creek that we weren't aware of. And this is just a timing thing.
It's verifying alignment.
Yep. That's what I needed to hear. I just recall other conversations about changes to the Beltline or flows to the Beltline.
Oh, nope.
No.
Yep, nope. Unrelated.
Cool. Last one is on the CAC stuff, which I believe oh yeah, double letters, CC. Super happy about the involvement that they showed in some of the DEIA workshops. It sounds like that they're taking some of the part.
Yep.
I assume there's no board action for them to change their own.
No. And we kind of decided to do an administrative name change now, and then they have bylaws as well.
Okay.
And so they'll update those bylaws in their next couple rounds.
Yep, and their groups.
Yeah.
And kind of on the same track, I thought I saw that they were asking for board, whatever, approval of their slate of,
Oh, table, that large program table.
yeah,
Well, you did that
I
last
think we,
month,
yeah,
yeah,
okay,
at the annual meeting, yeah.
yeah, it just looks like they're building it now and stuff,
yeah, okay.
or tracking.
Thanks for the reminder and thanks for the.
Mhm.
All right. Any manager comments? For our next month's meeting? Well, that TAC review that will be going down, is that recorded?
Well, we can record it, cause it's gonna be an all online meeting, so we can do that.
Is there value in the board maybe seeing
Yeah.
some of that?
Yeah, and then we can send an invite to if anybody wants to.
Is it during working hours?
I mean, if it works out, but yeah, otherwise, we can record it if you're interested. Otherwise, we'll be summarizing and bringing that information to you. at the
I would
next-
just take the AI summary out.
the next-
For the water.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Greg left, but it sounds like the watershed plan is gonna go out to the tech and then there'll be some getting word, but response to that, we likely won't have another workshop on that topic for several months.
Right, so they're gonna review the goals like you guys did.
Yeah.
And then we'll bring any, feedback from that back to you next month. And then I would anticipate probably June is when we would, or July, look at the implementation table. So that we probably want to do a workshop. for that.
Yeah, I think the.
We were talking about a workshop for the wetland stuff in June.
So maybe July, then I can make sure from Greg that timing is okay. But
If at all
I mean,
possible in that workshop for the actions, it seems like the view we saw today helpful. Maybe a condensed view of all the actions together might be interesting because that lump sum will be, I believe there will be duplicative actions across some of those, which is
yeah,
fine.
so the implementation table will be, how typically it would be, if you'd have your implementation and then it would say which goal
That's what I wanted
listed
to
out
just
or
double.
that apply,
Yeah, I was
that action applies. to.
thinking about reading these pages and then more
Yeah.
specifics in the table. That
Yeah.
would be very challenging
Yeah.
to sync.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite.
So we have potentially 2 workshop additional meetings, early summer, midsummer. And then we always try to get,
Yeah.
some site visits in too. So,
Yeah, we might be a
This
little light on the site
Site visits.
visits this year to get the workshops in, makes the plan, but.
I think that's the right priority.
But if anything
Yeah.
comes up, we can always maybe pop in a different time too to do a site visit, if some meetings.
Visit the food trucks at Gustavus.
You learned about that last
Like
week?
that one, yeah.
Where's the tour this year?
The summer tour,
The summer
the
tour.
Mont Summer Tour or the Minnesota Watershed is up in the Detroit Lakes area.
It's
It's gonna be in August this year.
Oh.
In order to line up with the
we found,
red, yeah. That would be insane.
yeah.
I mean.
That's been August.
So this is at the end of August. To line with the Red Board Tour,
Oh, okay.
which is at the same time, and the Bowser Tour, I think.
Yeah,
So it's
that
like
sounds
kind of
right.
like they did a few years back up in Brent Forks. So that is, and that was mostly due because the watershed. It's not the Detroit Lakes watershed. Pelican, thank you.
Yeah.
The administrator is having some health issues, so she wasn't able to commit to running a tour this year, so then we pivoted to, which happened to be in the same areas.
Yeah, the reason I asked the question is because that'll be a good one, but we did our tour last year, so I had my fingers crossed. Wonderful. Any other comments, questions about next month's meeting? July is going to be a hard one with the workshops. We'll have fun talking about that. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Adjourn.